Hello everybody, welcome to my book channel, Marlicia's Meanderings. I am Marlicia, also known as Marlicia Muses, and today I want to talk about my Private Eye in July book that I'm reading right now. I want to do a little update. I'm a little annoyed, okay? What I chose was to start off for the I think it's 1920s to 1960s, was Dashiell Hammett's The Maltese Falcon. So far, so good. I love the movies. The movie with Humphrey Bogart is absolutely amazing. The dialogue snaps. The atmosphere is amazing. Everyone is just, the plot goes, the character goes, everything is wonderful for the movie. And I was told that this book sticks pretty closely to the dialogue of the movie. So I didn't figure there was anything to be worried about. I picked up a copy, or rather Talia picked it up for me. And I said, okay, I'm going to read this in July. So I read 2 chapters. Not a happy camper. It is very close to the movie in some ways. In other ways, it's not. Maybe because of the censor laws back in the 30s and 40s and things like that. In the movies, you didn't get a lot of the swearing and things. I was really quite surprised when Sam Spade popped out with God's Name in Vain. And for those of you who've watched my relatively new video any amount of time, my booktube channel, you know that that is just, I have zero tolerance for God's Name in Vain. So I thought, okay, I usually have, for no tolerance, I mean, I'll have like 3 strikes and I'll take my pen and cross it out. I know this is a noir kind of book. I know it's gritty. I know that it's a little bit rough around the edges, but I had the movie in the back of my mind. I should have known better. Maybe I was naive because I figured the time period would affect this. Now, I don't want to give the impression that this book uses God's name in vain every other word, or that it uses other ancillary swear words, which it does, the normal acceptable words, you know, the H's and the D's, you know, those kind of words. I expected that in here. Not as much as is in here, but I expected it in here. Did not expect God's name in vain, not expect Jesus' name to be used in the way it's used here. So that put me off. If it had been only 2 or 3 times, I would have crossed it out and went on. But something else also bothers me about this book, and I think it's, to be fair, I think it's the time period at which this book was written. And there's a lot of exposition, there's a lot of narrative intrusion. There's a lot of telling as opposed to showing, and it kind of gets in the way of the action. He was hot. Well, just show me he's hot. He'll say something, and then the author will say something to the effect of, and it was stormy, or I'm pulling things out of my head because I've only read two chapters of this and then kind of paged through the rest to see what was in here in terms of objectionable material to me. And you might say that's not enough to get an idea. It is plenty. It's plenty for me to get an idea that the story is well written, that the plot moves along well, the characters are well drawn, they have layers, and the dialogue is snappy. I can't get past the stylistic writing, and I cannot get past the telling. I definitely cannot get past the use of God's name in vain. I just can't do it. I can't. So this will be unhauled. Brand new book for me. It's going to be unhauled. I'm not saying it's not a good book. I'm not saying it's not a good story. I think it is a good story. It's a real struggle for me to get rid of it, but I cannot in good conscience read this. So having said that, I was like, okay, well, if I can't even trust for the July, Private Eyes in July, the older authors, what am I going to do for the newer ones? And what am I going to read now if I can't trust the older authors? Little light bulb went off my head. Bing! I have a shelf full of Agatha Christie, Arthur Conan Doyle. So there, and those are just the private eyes. So, because I had thought, oh, I'm going to just kind of fudge the first one and make it sleuths in general. So I could read Tommy and Tuppence, or I could read Miss Marple, or Brother Cadfael, and things like that. But no, I've got two very serviceable private eyes that I know I can read. They are Agatha Christie and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. And I kind of vacillated back and forth which one I would go with for the first one to replace this book. And I ended up deciding to go with Agatha Christie's Cards on the Table, okay, which is one of my favorite books. I even have 2 copies of it. Talia got me this for Christmas one year, and I was going to read this copy, but I didn't want to take it. I got my hair cut. I didn't want to take it with me to the hairdresser, so I left this one home when I found out that I had this one. I was going to get rid of this one, and then I realized I can take this one out with me, and if I lose it, it won't be a big deal. Although I do like the cover of this, Agatha Christie. And this is a Poirot. He's a private investigator. He gets paid for solving crimes, and I really like this story. So I can read this for the first part of The Private Eye in July. And I've already listened to the story. I've already read the story on Kindle. This will be my first time reading it in a hard copy book, a paperback. So I am looking forward to seeing how the experience differs. I tend to remember more when I use a book, even more than I remember when I read on a Kindle. So yeah, I just wanted to let you know that I'm updating my private eye. I'm not reading Hammett anymore. I just want to let some people know who maybe had heard me or heard other people get excited about Dashiell Hammett, Maltese Falcon, and maybe they don't like God's Name in Vain. I haven't run across any situations in here, but I didn't read all the way through. But there is God's Name in Vain. So if you don't like that kind of stuff, I just wanted to let people know out there that that could be an issue for you, and it could definitely impact your enjoyment of the book. If that doesn't bother you, I mean, that's fine too. But I thought it was something I ought to do, because I know I have several people, Christian related people, who don't like to read this, that kind of language in their books, and I fully agree with them. So I did find something to replace it with, and I'm excited about that. And that's all I really have to say today as I throw my book on the floor. Let me pick it up. Thank you for joining me during my little mini meandering. I really appreciate it. And I guess I will see you again next time I record. God bless, and have a wonderful day. If I can find my little turn off. Bye.